BuildAid is so proud to be part of this amazing, bustling city of gold. Come behind the scenes with us as we explore what really goes into the development, refurbishment and creation of this incredible city we call home. From past to present, we look at what makes Jersey unique and what the future holds. Our favorite legal specialist joins us on air this week, Chantel Gladwin-Wood from Schindlers Attorneys, speaking about property law, the different courts in and around the Greater Johannesburg metro area, and the Old Fort.
BuildAid on Mix 93.8 FM. Good evening. My name's Graham Alexander in the studio, Kay and Simon looking after the desk. I'm going to be chatting to Chantel Gladwin-Wood. Chantel's our local legal beagle, if I can put it that way. And we're going to be chatting about generally property law, building law, and so on. But we're also going to chat about a couple of interesting buildings in Joburg, along with our new format for the year, chatting about our great city. And Kay also has something up.
Yeah, I've...
Hold on.
Hold on,
there you go.
Yeah, I've got a very interesting sort of thread here. So we're talking legal tonight. So I'm looking for the name of a concert. That's actually not a name, it's a number. And it was in honor of a great legal person who everybody in this country reveres. The first one was held in Cape Town. And it had a band, and we're going to play out with this band. And I'd like to know if you know who they are. So if you know the name of the concert I'm talking about and the name of the band who played at that concert, there were lots of them, but it's a pretty cool rock band. You can send us an SMS on 314-41348.
So, Kay, maybe a lot of people don't know that he was a legal man, but a lot of people also don't know that he was a boxer. So there's a clue.
A legal boxer who we all love.
I think you've given it away there.
BuildAid on Mix. Chantel, welcome and thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Right, let's get straight into it. We are going to be talking about Supreme Courts and that amazing building in Joburg a little later. But when it comes to body corporates, you have a case study, and I don't remember all the name and detail on that, but it was a building where the lifts weren't working. Now, it could have been the roof was leaking or whatever, and one of the tenants or the owners in this building needed this fixed. Just give us a bit of background, and then I've got a couple of questions to ask you.
So the essential principle behind the idea that your body corporate in a sectional title scheme is meant to do all the maintenance and repair of the common property is because it's a bit difficult if the body corporate is the central controlling agency is not doing it to say who must be responsible for it. Because a body corporate is essentially a collection of all of the owners in the scheme, and the body corporate is managed and controlled by the trustees who are usually nominated from the members in the scheme. So the trustees are kind of like a board of directors who take up the management function, and it's their job to maintain and repair all the common property in the scheme, and they need to use the levies paid by the owners towards this to do this.
In the case study, I think the result was that the body corporate had to fix the lifts. Now, the sort of crazy part of this is the body corporate are your neighbors, you know, and I don't think they're even paid to do this.
Well, so just on the aspect of being paid, a lot of the time the trustees who are elected from within the members of the body corporate are not paid, the great majority of the time. And often they take an awful lot of slack from the rest of the members who are demanding that they go and do X, Y, Z, when either they don't have the money because the body corporate literally doesn't have the funds, or because there are good reasons for not doing those things. So trustees take a lot of abuse, and to all the owners out there, be kind to your trustees, because if they don't want to stand, you may have to get up and do it. But in relation to your question about your owners, the owners are your neighbors, it can be very difficult for a body corporate to do repairs and maintenance if it doesn't have the money to do it. Because as you say, all the owners collectively need to put money in the kitty in order to pay for the repairs. If there's no money, there can be no repairs.
So in the case study, the body corporate had to fix the lifts. Now the lifts come to whatever, 500,000 rand, and they've only got 100,000 rand. The only place they're going to get the other 400,000 is from your neighbors.
So what they would have to do is raise a special levy in order to get that money. But that is probably going to upset a fair deal of people. What happened in this particular case was that there was one person who really needed these lifts. I think that person was old and infirm. And so they obliged the body corporate by way of a court order to go and have these lifts fixed. Now, obviously, the judgment doesn't give us the full background to the story, but you may very well find that a lot of the members in that body corporate were opposed to fixing the lifts because of the crazy cost of doing so.
Chantel, in simple terms, without getting into too much detail, the liability on one of these body corporate members or the trustees, I mean, how far can it go? Can they land up in court or prison, or I mean, could it get legally hectic, if I can use that term?
Absolutely, it can. So when you stand as a trustee, you have what we call a fiduciary duty, which means that you have to act in good faith and always in the best interest of the body corporate. So if you do something that breaches that duty, you can be held liable for damages that the body corporate suffers. But usually it's only in very extreme cases, because obviously the courts do understand that you're acting in an official capacity, and also that, you know, not every trustee is a very experienced property manager. So the court looks at all these factors when taking a decision.
The body corporate should be everybody. And then maybe they'll sort it out between themselves. But it's a group of you. And I know my brother's on he was on one of these body corporates. And another role you play is policeman. So if somebody's putting up a carport that doesn't conform to regulations, now you've got to go and tell that person to knock it down, and they don't like you anymore. So, yeah, I wouldn't belong to a body corporate, but that gives us a bit of info. My name's Graham Alexander. I'm chatting to Chantel Gladwin-Wood. We're talking legal, but we're also talking about Joburg and a couple of interesting places and buildings. We talk about Joburg, we'd probably spend a whole year and we wouldn't cover everything. Fascinating place. I was born in Joburg, grown up, and I learned something every day because we've sort of made it our mission on the show to talk about Joburg, and it's unreal how much is out there. Constitutional Hill, where the Constitutional Court is, and the fort and some old prison buildings and whatever. It's a whole precinct now. And a couple of interesting facts, Chantel, that I picked up here was the Boers built the fort to imprison the British during the Boer War. Unfortunately, they lost the war. And the British imprisoned the Boers, which was like really not cool. The poor guys built the place. And unfortunately, which is quite horrible, a number of them were actually executed at the fort. The Constitutional Court is built on top of an old building. Some of the stairwells and that are original, but the building is brand new. They used bricks from parts of the other places. Did you also know, Chantal, I know you probably know more about the Constitutional Court and that hill than I do, but it was the prison was built for whites only, and Mr. Mandela tried to escape from somewhere, so they thought, let's put him in the fort because he won't get out of there. But being a white, they put him in the hospital section to make sure that he wouldn't escape. And another little bit of trivia is that Mahatma Gandhi was also imprisoned at the fort. Okay, Chantel, the Constitutional Court, can I take a case there if something's gone wrong in my life or somebody ripped me off? Or?
Pretty much, yes. So if it was a non-constitutional matter, so you just gave the example, somebody ripped you off. If it didn't involve a constitutional aspect, you would have to first go through the other course. So let's say that you have a building dispute and your builder runs away with your money and you're trying to get 100,000 Rand back. You would first start in the Maj Court or the High Court, go up through the Supreme Court of Appeal, and then you could go to the Constitutional Court, even if it didn't involve a constitutional matter, because there was an amendment to the law a couple of years ago which provided that the Constitutional Court can now sit as the court of what we call last instance, so basically the final arbiter of any dispute whatsoever, including non-constitutional matters. But if you were talking about a constitutional matter, so let's say it's a slightly different scenario. Let's say that you are fighting a case with a municipality because they are refusing to give you water and you say it's your human right to water, something like that. Then there are instances in which you could go directly to the Constitutional Court without having to go through the other courts first. But the Constitutional Court will only allow this to happen in very limited circumstances, because normally the Constitutional Court benefits hugely from having had the matter go through all the other courts, because then it's got a lot more to think about and a lot more to look at when making a decision.
Before we go on to, I want to chat about illegal buildings and what we do about them. But before we do that, Simon shares some stuff with us every now and again that may have nothing to do with what we're talking about.
This time it has absolutely nothing to do with the subject. But the oldest woman to top the US Top 100 is Cher with Believe back in 1999. You can hear her in the background at the age of 53, which makes her 71 this year. She doesn't look a day over 30.
She doesn't look a day over plastic.
BuildAid on Mix, brought to you by AfriSam. Chantel, some time back, lawyers or advocates had to work or have their offices within a certain distance of the courts. And we don't have to get into all the distances. We're chatting about cities and Johannesburg. And the buildings around the High Court in Johannesburg were populated by lawyers, legal people. And when that rule changed, a lot of them moved out to Sandton and so on. And so your city morphs and changes and becomes residential space and so on. Where did they all go? Mainly Sandton?
The advocates mainly went into Sandton, but the attorneys a lot into Sandton, but actually all over the place, stretching as far as Midrand, in fact. So it just depends.
Wherever.
Yeah.
Where are you guys?
Melrose Arch, which is next to Sandton.
That's nice. It's a nice place. Chantel, a quick one before we finish off is sometimes people, particularly when it comes to building, and you're building an illegal building, don't think the law has any teeth. So you hear things, you will get a demolition order, the house will be knocked down, so you go, that'll never happen. Yeah. Does it happen?
It does, more than you would think. There are situations where a court is empowered to use its discretion to either order demolition or to order a payment of compensation to the person who is aggrieved. But it's not in every single situation. So I'm not going to go into the details now, but in most instances, if your neighbor is acting absolutely unlawfully and is disregarding the law and simply trying to build fast to make sure that when it gets to court, the building's already built so that he can present the court with what we call a fait accompli, meaning it's already done, you can't knock it down, then your neighbor is sadly mistaken. The courts will see through that and they'll order demolition.
I was down in Port Alfred in December, and we popped into Kenton to go and meet some friends, and I noticed this huge house that stopped building. So I asked my mate what's going on. He said, no, it's been like that for about 5 years. And they got an order to stop the guy building, and it was based on the view.
Is that the one sort of in the bush, where the bush surrounds it?
Yeah, and it was on top of the hill.
I know that house. Yeah.
So there's and it was, most of it's built, and it's quite a serious house. So it's somewhere the law had teeth. They stopped this guy. I don't want to get into the view of it, but obviously they sorted that out in court, and someone lost a lot of money. Okay. So who won that amazing crate?
Okay, well, Peter W. Hopefully you have a Valentine because you're about to get lucky. We're going to give you a call tomorrow so that you can get hold of your party in a crate from Schindlers, some wine, chocolates, and some enduring seeds that you can plant and give a gift on a continuous basis. So the answer we were looking for, the concert's name is 46664, and that was Nelson Mandela's prison number, and he gave his number to the cause to raise awareness for AIDS and HIV. And the band I was looking for, we're going to play out with a song from them. It was The Who. Can you believe they played at that concert? How amazing. My generation.
Okay, thank you so much. Simon, thank you for looking after the desk. Ian, for videoing the show and putting it on YouTube. Thanks to all of you for listening. And Chantel, thank you so much for coming to chat to us again.
It's so nice to see you guys again.
Thank you so much. And Chantel, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, happy birthday.
we should have played the song, but most people don't like that.
No, it's okay. I'll be fine.
Up next is the greatest show on earth. We do this every Wednesday between 6 and 7. Chat to you next week. Ciao.
Why don't you off? But there's something going on, and I can't hurt you bad. There must be so much love in my heart that it would tear me apart. And I know, although you couldn't see